I think I love this topic because I've been a generalist my whole life. And part of me, like a fear or like an insecurity that I have myself is that am I just not disciplined and I just chase whatever interesting thing is right in front of me and then I try to justify it by defending generalists, right? So I'm always cautious of that. Like, don't be a dilettante in the back of my head. But I do think that fundamentally, our biology is that we are generalists. That's what humans are. We're problem solvers with a flexible brain who can adapt to any situation. If you look around, most animals they form a niche with their environment, and they get really specialized in their niche. If their niche changes due to climate or otherwise, most organisms cannot make that change. Whereas humans, we can reinvent ourselves. We colonize pretty much the entire planet. And what that means is we have the coastal fishermen people, we have the winter people who follow around all the ungulates on the Great Plains, and they literally just associate with the buffalo or the caribou or whatever. We have the people like the tiny little people who live in the islands and they eat coconuts and barely any animal protein. Point being, we're flexible. And if bad things happen to us, we feel really bad, we're down. And then 2 weeks later, we snap out of it and we adapt and we just like, oh, this is our new normal. And we just get by. So we are generalists, fact. Now, in modern society, we introduce the Industrial Revolution. We introduce a more complex society. Now, all of a sudden, there's situations where being a specialist pays dividends. And so society more and more and more has led us to become, we're incentivized to specialize more and more. But there's a cost to the individual. If you're a specialist, you actually make poor decisions and you're not fulfilled. I think on average, generally speaking, we're supposed to wake up, go in the sun, go for a jog, find some food, swim in the river, play with our kids, spend time with our spouse, go to war sometimes, hunt a buffalo, whatever. We're supposed to do all that in a day or a week. And now we wake up, we stare at a small screen, then we go sit at a desk and we stare at our medium screen. And then at the end of the day, if we're lucky, we stare at a big screen while often checking our small screen. Like, that is not what we evolved for, right? And you wonder why people are fat, sick, and unhealthy and whatever. We're not living in congruence with our biology. We are so far from our biology. Our bodies are screaming at us to go for a walk, get some sun, eat real food. And we're like, oh no, we'll just think our way out of it. No, that's all nonsense. We need to go back to the fundamentals of what our meat suit needs. And if we do that, depression, metabolic syndrome, anxiety, many other things like woes of modernity will start to just slowly disappear from society. I don't think we're ready to have that conversation at the mass scale, but I believe that strongly. You mentioned one other thing about generalists versus specialists. At the individual level, I think the right approach to, let's say, approach career or purpose or how to create value in the world is to be a generalist. But that doesn't mean you treat all disciplines equally. It means that you need to go in and lean into the things that you're unnaturally good at. And that could be, what do you love doing? Because if you love something, you're going to iterate on it over and over and over again, genuinely for pleasure, and it's not going to be work, and you're going to get good at it eventually. And then maybe you overlap that with some other subject that you genuinely love. And over time, you have like multiple spheres of competency. And then your unique value in the world is you overlay those things. And all of a sudden, you're competing against no one because you're the most knowledgeable Bitcoin plus mycelium and mycology guy in the world. And that's a totally made up thing that shouldn't be useful. And I still can't believe it's real. But all of a sudden you get that and you have a reputation that opens doors. That's how you get jobs in the industry. And that's totally wild, right? I'm obviously using myself as an example here, but I do encourage people to follow their nose and don't worry about, is this the right next career step? Fuck that. Does this light you up? Does it give you energy? You don't need to know how the puzzle pieces fit together in the future. First of all, it's hubristic to even believe you can plan your life methodically one step at a time. That's nonsense. You can't. So it's a false security anyways. Second, let's be romantic about life a little bit. Sometimes you take a detour and you don't know why. And later in life, you have some clarity and you realize how important that detour was. If you're bright-eyed and you're paying attention in the world, that's actually how life works. And I think we should celebrate those detours and not take life so seriously. Celebrate the detours, take a mini career break at 25 and travel and explore some weird interest that doesn't make sense or doesn't fit into your story. In hindsight, I think if you just pursue life this way, I think in hindsight, it will be obvious the value of those detours. And not all detours are going to be obvious. Maybe some detours are genuinely detours, but you have to take a risk. You have to explore in order to later then exploit. And so I'm on team lots of weird hobbies, explore. And then when you do find something interesting, go hard at that and exploit that opportunity you do have. I still believe that writing is a complete superpower. I think it does two things in modern society. One, even if you don't publish something or maybe you share with your friends or whatever, just the act of writing something that you will stand behind, that you would feel comfortable publishing, it radically transforms your thinking. And I love ideas. I get high on ideas. I get high on thinking about ideas, the eureka moment when all the puzzle pieces finally fit in your head and you're like, whoa, pure clarity. I live for that moment, right? And so I have unlimited ideas, literally unlimited. But then when I sit down to write, I'm like, oh, I got this one. I'm going to just pound this out because it's all clear in my head. And then you realize when you put pen to paper that your idea is entirely half-baked. You haven't stress tested it from all other angles. You haven't built it up from the ground floor logically, step by step, from one premise to the next. And you realize that you don't know what you're talking about. And then the writing process forces you, if you're being honest and you care about your work, to go back and check your notes and figure out what you actually intended to say. And that involves relearning, that involves like stress testing ideas or whatever. So you finish that process. Okay, now I publish something, it doesn't matter what. I feel confident in what I'm saying now because there's a social cost to me publishing this and people I respect making fun of me if it's bad. I'm kind of exaggerating, but you get what I mean. That pressure forces you to think harder. And so number one, writing makes you smarter. It makes you understand your ideas. It makes your brain think more logically. It allows you to communicate these ideas more eloquently later because you really understand them. And I personally believe that I don't want to like stand behind any of my ideas until I've gone through the writing and publishing process. Anything that I haven't done that with, I would consider myself below the bar. Sure, we can talk, we can have some conversations, but I think that actually is a really good crucible for your thinking. Secondly, in the digital world, it is a superpower to create content or to create code or to create media. Naval Ravikant, who I would say I consumed everything he's ever produced, met him, had good conversations with him. I consider him someone that I very much look up to. I don't like his like crypto angle, but from like a life philosophy standpoint, I align very heavily here. And he has a comment about infinite leverage in the digital age, meaning I write a blog post once and I spend 100 hours on it and then 1 million people read it for the next 100 years. Or I write some software once that everyone uses. Or I create a YouTube channel that I create once that everyone can watch, right? And so in that type of world, that's extremely powerful.
If you like that clip, then you definitely got to check out this next spicy clip. I think you're really going to like it. Come on, check it out. But if you want the full version, the full interview, check that out over here. Come on, do it. I'll see you in there.